Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Steve McDiarmid, and I'm the VP of Sales at Cryptowerk. Cryptowerk being a leading provider of data integrity solutions powered by blockchain technology. This webinar today is a joint session held by Connecting Software and Cryptowerk. Connecting Software is a company that provides platforms and products for all software integration challenges. Connecting Software will be presented today by Thomas Berndorfer, who is the CEO and founder of Connecting Software, as well as Sharif Kanawi, who is the solution architect at Connecting Software. Cryptowerk, on the other hand, will also be represented today by Kevin McDonald, our VP of Solutions. Our topic today is data integrity solution based on blockchain technology. And just before we start, I would like to share a few housekeeping thoughts before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A window of our Presentation Manager control panel, or Fragen und Antworten if you have a German interface. We will bring them up at the end of the presentation. Now, without further ado, I will turn the time over to Connecting Software. Our presenter today is Thomas Berndorfer, CEO and founder of Connecting Software. Over to you.
Thank you very much for joining this webinar. We are very happy today to have this presentation give you the first introduction on a low level to understand what can blockchain be for you today and not tomorrow or whenever. So all of us heard in the last years a lot of these groundbreaking technology change with blockchain. There are Forrester studies which say that it is a slow start, but in 2026 already $260 billion market, and in 2030 there will be a $3 trillion market per year, according to blockchain or involved with blockchain technology. So what we are talking today has nothing to do with Bitcoin or currencies or anything else. We are talking about security and seals and smart stamps, so-called, using blockchain technology to make your documents tamper-proof. First, let us see a little bit about the problems, why the blockchain is not the rocket as it was predicted a couple of years before. So one of the major points is that the technology really is completely different. It's groundbreaking. We have the main topic of blockchain is trust, and to be sure that the information is correct. To do that, it's pretty difficult to see what you are doing these days. So the understanding of blockchain technology is one topic. And the second is, how can blockchain technologies or smart stamps help you in your company, and what is the benefit of it? Another problem is that the blockchain gurus and specialists usually are not so familiar with the internal business processes in enterprises or companies. So here, this is also something why the people would like to do it, but they don't know how and how is it working with their existing software. Problem what we have, number 4, is that you hear about these big consortia where they start to build and work with IBM and hundreds of involved parties, and it was years and very long and expensive. Therefore, people are not knowing where to start. What we want to show you today is how we can bring it to business and how easy it could be to work with existing technology and using or add on the blockchain technology to make the life better for the people. So what do we cover in this webinar is, why is data integrity important? How can smart stamps help in securing documents? Can I have a solution now in a cost-effective way? What's a hash? So sometimes it needs to explain a little bit, and we will see that. Kevin will give you us a deeper look in. What makes Cryptowerk outstanding in their technology? So what is a super hash? And then we will show you or explain you a couple of business cases for today. And which kind of companies or areas or industries can benefit today from using smart stamps. Let's start with the first. Why is data integrity important? It's very simple. You need to know that your documents are what they should be: accurate, complete, and consistent. And how many times you had in the past the problem that there were multiple different versions, but you didn't know, did someone change it? For example, was the Boeing 737 problem, where they were thinking what was the problem, and then they said, oh, it's about the testing software, and it was about to see who was the problem. And I think in the end of the day, it was somehow that only the simulation software had the problem, and based on this, they couldn't really go for it. So what we do is to make sure that the data or the document or the information or the process is tamper-proofed, sealed, and not changed. And with this, you get trustworthy data, and based on trust and based on accurate, complete, consistent documents, you can change your processes and make them faster and more cost-effective. So one point of the benefits of the blockchain is a distributed ledger, which means the information, what is sealed, and the proof of the seal is distributed under thousands of servers around the world, and only if more than 50–60% of them, you can choose that, are according to a proof of a seal that this is correct, then these 50–60% have to say yes, and only then you get the proof of the seal is correct. Which means whenever you even change one bit or a byte of a document, the seal is broken, and you know automatically that this is not the original and sealed document. And this guarantees you the trustworthy data. So, but how that is live in a business environment, I would like to hand over to Sheriff to show a live demo with SharePoint.
Thank you, Thomas. You know, speaking about security and compliance is always an interesting topic. And today I have the pleasure to demo live our solution utilizing the Smart Stamp document sealing technology. Now, we have here the blockchain dashboard, and from here we could seal and verify the seals of the documents in any business application. That could be document management, customer relationship management, or even mailing system. So it could be SharePoint, as you can see here in front of you, CRM, Salesforce, Exchange, and so on. As I mentioned, that I'm using today a document management system, which is the SharePoint, and here it's a SharePoint on-prem. However, we support, of course, SharePoint online, and we support any type of SharePoint installation or version, or even earlier versions of SharePoint. So, and once you have our solution with you, to seal a document, all what you need to do is to choose the SharePoint site. So you can see here that this is the SharePoint site, which I showed you here. And you click on the SharePoint site. It will list for you all the document libraries there that you can choose the desired document library. And from here, you can either seal the entire document library or a specific folder in that document library, or subfolder, or even a file if you wish to seal just one file. In short, you could seal 100,000 of documents with a click of a button, and today I'm going to show you that. So here I have this invoices folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal all the documents with these extensions. So, and if I have extra extension or my own custom extension also, it's possible by adding this extension here. And we click on seal. Now the sealing request was submitted. And what's happening right now is that we as connecting software are creating a hash. And as Thomas mentioned, we're going to speak shortly about what is this hash. And we are creating the hash for each document in the invoices folder that I chose from here. And then we send only those hashes to Cryptowerk. You can see that how fast it is and the progress. And Cryptowerk receives those hashes that we send, and they write it into multiple blockchains, creating seals. and return them back to us. And then once we get those seals, we store and hand over these seals to you as our customer, and to Trustport for the reason of verification, which, by the way, also I'm going to demonstrate today for you. And just to keep in your mind, each hash or each seal, and later on we'll speak about this, as I mentioned, is unique. And it's associated with one document, just to prove that the document had a certain look and content at the moment of sealing. And this is how your documents will be sealed and smartly stamped without the need of your documents to go anywhere. So the magic of this is that your documents will be sealed and secured while they are in your own business application without going anywhere. And as you saw, I got the progress 100%. It's already finished. And if I click on details, you can see that those invoices were already sealed, and you can see the status. Now, of course, you know, it can happen that you update an invoice or you update a contract and so on. So you always have the option to reseal your documents after you modify them, only if it is authorized to modify them. Now, to verify this, because, you know, once you seal, you also need to know if your documents are secured or not. By the way, this is my SharePoint, and these are the invoices folder. And, well, I can see already that these documents are sealed, but I just want to show you this as well from the own application here. So, again, you have the SharePoint side, so you have documents, and you have invoices. So here you can verify this folder, or you can verify individual files in that folder. So let's click on verify. Now we are verifying the seals, and what's happening right now is that we're calculating a hash for each document again, and then we retrieve the seals of those documents from Trustpoint, as I mentioned earlier. And if we didn't find the seal for some document hash, that means the document is not sealed. And again, I'm going to show you this as well. If I found the seal for the document, then we send that seal to Cryptowerk, and again, this process will be explained later. And we verify the seal against the blockchain or chains in which it was written. If we find the matching hash, your document is authentic. Otherwise, it is not, and I'm going to show you how. Good. So we see that everything is sealed and verified and no failure, so we close here. Now, let's do one thing. Now, let's add a new invoice which wasn't sealed before to this invoices folder. So let me go back to the SharePoint and click on load. And let's choose this invoice. Yeah. So I added this invoice now, and you can see that it's not sealed. And I'm going back to the interface, the dashboard. I'm going to click on verify seals again. This. We have screen, so verify, and then we click on documents, and we see invoices. And I'm going to click on this beta tech invoice and verify. Now, here you go. So if you remember what I mentioned shortly, that we didn't find a hash and a seal for this document, so the document is not sealed in this case. Good. Now, this is one way that you can know if your document is authentic and stamped or not. Not only this. Now, you see here that I have here an invoice called Alpha Tech Invoice. Yeah. And if I click on this invoice, you see that here I have an invoice, and I was very happy that I invoiced the customer, and I'm going to get 300,000 euros. Yeah. So this is the original invoice, which is sealed, and everything is okay. So I'm very secure about this. Now here I created an application that allows me to get the documents and change the documents in SharePoint. So we have here this invoice, and I'm gonna make a small change here. Okay, so I did that. And by the way, this application was created by ConnectBridge, which allows me to connect to SharePoint and manage the documents there. Now let's open this Alpha Tech invoice. Okay. Now, you know, everything looks fine. You see that, okay, but if you look detailed, you see that it's 30,000, not 300,000. So some changes happen in this invoice, but maybe for someone, you will not notice this. And if you click on this one, and you click here on alpha tick and you see version history, you see, well, actually there is no version update. The document was uploaded, the document was sealed. So, you know, everything looks okay, but actually nothing is okay because the document was tampered with. Now, the naked eye cannot see this, and that's why here the blockchain comes to our rescue. So if we click on verify seals, and if we click on documents, and I just want to make sure that my invoices are okay, and I click on verify. It's in progress, and here you go. I have one failure, and if I click on view details, I see that this document is not authentic anymore because someone changed the document. Even though that he was smart, that he doesn't leave any traces, I was able to find that the document was manipulated. Good. So as you could see from one window, you are able to seal and verify the seals of the documents in your business application, and ensuring your documents not only safe, but also authentic. On top of that, we also provided you with the statistics view, so you can see how many documents you sealed, how many documents you verified using in your business application. Well, what I can say is that all from your own business application, your documents and everything about them stays in your system. The hashes are communicating for sealing, and you get a secured, authentic documents. And that concludes my live demo for this webinar. It was a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it. And back to you. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Sheriff. I hope it's clear now, or more clear, what we are currently already have. This is real data. This is real Office 365 or SharePoint, and can be used also in combination with all of our products like the document extractor or the permissions replicator or anything else. So yes, we have already a working solution which can be implemented, which can be brought to your customers. I saw that a couple of our partners is on board on the webinar. Hello, everybody. And we can do that to a fraction of the cost. And I think that is the next thing what I want to handle over to Kevin to show why this is so different and why we can do it in a much lower level of cost with a high security for you. So please, Kevin.
Thank you, Thomas. We've heard the word hash quite a bit, but maybe we'll start first with some blockchain basics. The idea behind blockchain is something called a distributed ledger. And I'm going to use an example of Bitcoin as a distributed ledger. But as Thomas said, we're not talking about cryptocurrencies. We're talking about using this distributed ledger technology where the participants in the network, in this case, the Bitcoin network, don't need to know one another. So the trust comes from mathematical proofs. So the idea behind a distributed ledger, we've got these participants where anyone can join. They write data to blocks within the ledger, and those blocks are chained together. And what that forces is that no data can be changed. You can only add to that blockchain. So that's fine. Somebody adds data to a chain. They push that out and distribute it to the other participants. In this case, these are called nodes in the network. And these nodes have to come to a consensus to validate which transactions are valid, in what order should they be in. And they do that through mathematical proofs. So they store a very little bit amount of data, but they have a very high level of trust in this immutable data store. So this is a really a pretty fascinating and how should we say, there's been a lot of hype about this in the types of things it can do, because it can provide proof without needing to know who the participants are to trust. But these public blockchains, which have let's say the highest level of security and trust, come at a cost. Each transaction can cost anywhere from $1 to write a transaction or even more. So what has happened over time is that people have tried to solve this trade-off of security and throughput or speed, and they've created private blockchains or partner consortium type, invitation only, if you will, blockchains. And that's part of the reason when Thomas said, hey, these projects that we hear about have taken a long time, it's because there's multi-parties and they're trying to figure out who to trust and what the consensus algorithm is and so on. So what we at Cryptowerk wanted to do was to try to circle that square and come up with a way that we could write to the public blockchains or a private blockchain or a consortium blockchain at a very, very high speed. And do that in a way that could make it possible that any enterprise business transaction, be it a document itself or be it the movement of a document, could be hashed and then anchored onto the blockchain. So we've tossed this word hash around quite a bit. And just for the folks that might not know what it means, a hash is actually a mathematical function. It's a cryptographic function that takes some input. In this case, maybe it's cats are cool is the text input. And that is going to go through a mathematical function and create a unique string of characters that is essentially a fingerprint for that data. And that fingerprint is always 32 bytes long. So any size data comes in, it gets a unique fingerprint of 32 bytes. So if I change the text here to capital cats are cool, I got a brand new fingerprint. So just as Sharif was saying, if the invoice was changed from, what was it, 300 to 3,000, that change would change the fingerprint. And it's that fingerprint that we're putting into the blockchain, not the actual data. So the thing to note about the cryptographic, it's a one-way function. The fingerprint cannot be reversed to come back to capital cats are cool. It is entirely one way. So what this enables is the ability to write these transactions in an immutable log and have trust and see if they've changed, kind of a notary service. But that can be expensive if we have the up to $1 or more transaction cost. So what we at Cryptowerk did was created something called a bundler. This bundler takes in cryptographic hashes, bundles them together, and then sends them into a blockchain of your choice, be that a Bitcoin public blockchain, Ethereum, or any of the private ones, Hyperledger, Hashgraph, multi-chain, and so on. Any one of those. So one interface coming in collects hashes, bundles them together, anchors them in multiple blockchains, and then we see the ability to return what we call a seal or a mathematical proof. So for each hash that came in, we'll return a seal, which is a way to prove that that data hasn't been verified. It's essentially a map from that original hash through the bundling process to come up with what data, what the super hash is that's anchored in a public blockchain. So this is something that when we start to process at a million transactions per second, we can see that the scalability is something is transformational. We still keep the level of privacy, and it becomes something that's rather affordable because we bundle this in this compression technique that brings the cost down. So again, the simplicity of writing to one API, the compression for scalability brings the cost down, and we keep the privacy because we're only writing the cryptographic fingerprint, which is a one-way channel back. So with that, working with a partner like Connecting Software, we're able to create a tamper-proof repository for not only documents, but the movement of documents and data throughout their life cycle. And that is, that's why I'm going to maybe turn it back to you, Thomas, to wrap us up here.
Thank you very much, Kevin. What do you want to do, or what can you do? We go more to the business cases. So as you have seen, we can create millions hashes in a very short time about a Cryptowerk. We can connect them and we can distribute them and redistribute them back to your applications with our Connect Bridge software. So with this, you can perfectly prove integrity and authenticity of documents and processes and WAV files and videos and SMS and whatever you name it, we got it. As long as the file or the document is not a changing document, you can prove always the authenticity from the time when you put that into the document management system or wherever. So with this, you can accelerate your business compliance data. You are being fully auditability. So all public listed companies can go together with the big fives, the Ernst & Youngs and PricewaterhouseCoopers, and can prove in a much, much faster and cheaper way that all the documents are correctly done. And you prevent from data tampering and fraud, because your documents are sealed and secured and you know immediately when they were changed. So for this, you can easily go for GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, SOX, or the New York Shields Act to be compliant in the modern world of legislation and the proof that you can do everything. So I think that's a pretty awesome thing and can save in the long run a lot of cost. So let's talk about industries. As I said, external and internal audits of processes, of documents, of invoices, contracts, super secure, super proofed. If the finance or the tax auditors are coming, you can prove that everything is in a correct way and they can see it. And this saves a lot of money and increased security, of course. If you look at research, if you think about how research is done, then you have your trials, you have your test lines, and whenever you have the results, you can immediately seal them and you can prove that they are not changed. And especially if later something happens, you can prove that all your work was done correctly. And if someone changes, you can prove there was a change. So this gives, in a long run, on courts, on trials, on if you want to put some pharmaceutical stuff to be audited, you can save so much money and you can prove so easily how good that works. Healthcare. If you are in a hospital, the data of your patients, the results of the test results, the blood results, you always can prove and you can seal each of these documents and can be sure that these are the correct documents. Manufacturing, this is something what I really like, because as we have also the OPC-UA connector with the Connect bridge, we can read out machine data, which means you can go to your machines, you can go to your business lines, you read out the data, you create a report, and with the report, you seal the report and you can store it. And you can provide this information to your supplier, the machine producer, or to your customer, especially in Europe, if you are in the area of the automotive industry. The contracts in this area are pretty demanding, and you have to prove that everything was right. I have a company, they are friends. They are producing little parts for the gearbox for the Audi. And they had the thing that one day the window was open and just dust came on these parts, and they had a problem for that. So you can prove that the machines were working correctly or whatever you are measuring. And you can prove that to your customers and to your suppliers. And last but not least, you have the government and all public organizations. Everybody wants to know, is the process correct? Was the data committed correctly? What was the answer? Is everything correct, or was it later on tampered or changed? I think the government, great possibility to do and to improve your internal processes or the processes for your customers. So that's from my side again. I want to go back to Steve, and Steve, please give us a summary.
Okay, so thank you very much, Thomas, for providing that great business overview of the solution that you have actually built with your team. Thank you, Sheriff, for providing a really great user's view of how that would actually look like in real life when applying the solution to your daily business. And thank you, Kevin, for providing the technology view of what has been realized here and how this in the end is actually being built in the background, or what it's relying on. So yes, just as a wrap-up summary, my takeaways were, and I would hope that you can take this home with you as well to our guests and participants of today's call, that this smart stamp solution that has just been introduced to you is a ready-to-use solution. It's up and running. You can integrate that in any current business applications or workflows that your company might be looking into right now. It's a straightforward solution for the end user, as Sheriff was able to show you is in our live demo. And it's extremely easy to implement very quickly into any of your work environments. And all this at a fraction of the cost of any comparable data integrity solution. And all this results in creating an exceptional ROI. So bottom line, the powerful benefits for anyone utilizing that solution is you actually ensure data integrity and trust the moment where the data is created. That's at least what we all recommend, that as soon as you collect data, that you then make sure that it is immutable for all future times by applying this solution the moment you create the data. And that way it automatically also becomes third-party auditable, making your application or workflow fully compliant with any local or global regulatory or tax laws that there are. We have seen this in many other projects. We have looked into those projects with companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers, who have also then confirmed that the technology is capable of providing this confidence and security that is needed to comply with regulatory or tax laws. So, all this said, thank you again to all the speakers. Thank you for participating in today's call, in today's webcast. Before I close, I do want to get to the questions part. I do see that we have a couple of questions that I would just like to utilize Kevin and Thomas to quickly feedback on those, not extending more than 2-3 minutes of your attention, I guess. So Kevin, I have one question here that says, is this solution suitable for large organizations, especially with a significant number of documents? So Kevin, maybe a short answer for our audience on that question. Yes. Because of the throughput and the bundling technology we have, any volume of data, we process, as I said earlier, over 1 million transactions per second. And just to put that in perspective, we kind of toss that million number out, but somebody like Visa processing credit card transactions, they do at peak somewhere in that kind of 65,000, 70,000 per second. And that number might be climbing, but still, we're talking, that's tens of thousands versus 1 million. So it's absolutely enterprise scale, ready to capture anything from documents to IoT and machine data. Okay, well, thank you very much. That does answer it for me, at least. I hope also for our audience. Please, anybody that might still have another remaining question, feel free to enter it into the Q&A box or Fragen und Antworten box. I will then look into the next question that we have, which would be the final one, unless we get any more. Thomas, this would be a question for you. You've mentioned that this solution is available at a fraction of the cost. Could you specify a little bit more what commercials would be needed to be looked into?
Wow, Steve, that's a main question. Of course, the fraction of cost. If you look at our solution, so we will give it as an add-on to our existing solutions. If you see how easy it was working when Sheriff showed it, we can do it with 1 or 2 man weeks. We can adapt it to new document management systems. So just calculate a couple of man days. And then you have, of course, the number of seals what you're doing. So there will be a fixed fee of a couple of hundred per month, and then an amount of free seals, and all what is above, it will come to it, will be added. But the seal by itself, it's a fraction of a cent. So we are not talking about millions of cost. We can do kind of contract sealing for a couple of hundreds per month. So I think that's pretty attractive to get all these kind of security and safety and proofs from your business. I hope this answered a little bit, but as well, I want to invite everybody to come to us to go for a one-to-one and discuss their business needs, and then we, of course, we can give a more clear figure how much it will cost, how much effort we will need. Or, as you know, if you know ConnectBridge, we can train you to use it by yourself and save the cost for the implementation as well.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. So it looks like we've covered all the questions that we've received. Thomas, Kevin, is there anything else you wanted to cover before I wrap up finally?
From my side, thank you very much, Cryptowerk, to help us in the last months to go forward with that. And we are now happy and ready to provide the solution to all the others. Thank you all for your time, for your interest, and I hope I hear soon from you to go for the next steps.
Okay, great. So, Kevin, I know I included you. Anything from your end before I wrap up?
No, Steve, we're all set. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, great. So all that said, I think or hope that the final slide has been pushed out that shows the speakers of today's session again, including email addresses, and I can only underline what Thomas just said. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, comments that you have. And that said, I can just thank you, everyone, again, for joining. We appreciate you being here. And thank you again for joining us today. We will keep you informed about future webcasts as well, and would love to see you again in this platform. So again, everyone, have a great remainder of the week, and thank you for joining. Goodbye.